A highly organized and stealthy cybercriminal operation is stealing millions of dollars from financial organizations in attacks that have been going on for the last 2 years. ZDNet's Danny Palmer has been following this developing story. Danny, who's doing this and what's going on?
Well, cybersecurity researchers at a company called Signia have identified these attacks by a group they're calling Elephant Beetle. And these attacks are very, very stealthy. I mean, they go on, as you say, they've been going on for a number of years now, targeting lots of financial institutions, particularly in South America. Although the researchers have warned that it doesn't necessarily mean that's just affecting South American victims. And one of the victims that's been identified is a US financial institution, which has offices in South America. So there's the scope for this going worldwide. I mean, what makes this group interesting is two things, really. Firstly, they are using some quite old and known vulnerabilities in Java software in order to initially breach networks. And some of these vulnerabilities are years old, but because they are used in legacy software, there's many instances, it seems, where these have not been patched. So there's that gateway into the network. Then once they are in the network, they have reported, researchers say, about 80 different tools and tactics for sneaking around the network and identifying what's going on in order to ultimately steal money. What's interesting here is that they are not just going in and saying, oh, we are taking millions of dollars at once. That would be noticeable. So what they're doing is monitoring these networks for months at a time and sort of identifying patterns which look like the real transactions, real interactions, that sort of thing. Then they are following those examples and only transferring relatively small amounts of money at a time to accounts that they own. And if they are identified or one of the transactions is blocked, they'll go quiet for a while before trying again. But it does sound quite like a painstaking operation on their side, but it's working because they have made millions of dollars from these attacks, and they show no signs of slowing down. When it comes to who Elephant Beetle actually are, what researchers seem to suggest is that they are Spanish speaking and operating out of somewhere in South America. So if this is the case, they are going around and looking at banks and financial institutions in their region. Though there's, as the researchers also say, there's no reason why they wouldn't expand their campaign, especially if they are being successful. So it's something that is worth keeping an eye on, especially as it has seemed to be being under the radar for so long. The researchers told me this has been operating for about 4 years now. So, and with so many different institutions discovered to be affected by this, it's obviously quite a successful operation, and one that has a lot of time and effort being put into it in order to make sure that these attacks stay under the radar as much as possible.
So, what can companies do to try and keep from falling victim?
Well, one of the key things here is to patch systems, when updates can be applied. I mean, it's the same thing that applies in many of these instances. The reason that security updates are released is because there has been a vulnerability found in it, and the patch will secure that vulnerability and stop attackers from being able to use it. Sometimes with legacy software like this, either organizations don't know they're running this old software, or there's the issue that they are reliant on old software and they fear that if they update it, it might just break the entire thing and their whole system goes down and they can't use it. So they end up just using the old system. So there's the patch is the key thing here, as we've discussed many times with many different types of vulnerability. Another thing to do here for organizations to avoid falling victim to this and other similar cybercrimes is if you do have legacy software which for whatever reason just cannot be patched, maybe the software is so old that there's no patch available. What organizations should look to do is make sure that software or those operating systems are on a different part of the network to everything else. So if attackers do manage to use old vulnerabilities to get in, there's less chance of them moving across to the rest of the network from that. And the third thing that organizations should really be doing is just keep an eye on what's going on your network. I mean, in some cases, organizations have been able to identify suspicious activity and find out what's going on. Obviously, the research company has managed to identify suspicious activity and see what's going on. So just having a clear idea of what's going on in your network, who has access to it and what they're doing, can also be a major stepping stone to helping to keep your network safe.
All right, Danny, thank you so much for reporting on this and so many other cybersecurity stories for us. As always, to find this in text form, Danny's article is linked down below, and be sure to stick with ZDNet for all things cybersecurity.